All right, everybody, welcome in to a Thursday edition of the Coach and Bro Show. I am Coach, and today is going to be a special episode because, as many of you know by now, this morning around 10 a.m. Eastern Time, due to a cardiac event, Hulk Hogan, the icon in wrestling, died at the age of 71. There's a lot to unpack, a lot to discuss. Today, that will be the majority of the show. Before I get more into it, let's bring in a man who also worked very, very closely with Hulk for several years. Of course, my partner from russosbrand.com, Vince Russo. Vince, I think how we'll do this today, it's going to be mostly Hulk. I already see some stickers in the chat. So let's do this. How about if you have a question on a story, a question on something when it comes to Hulk, put them in there. We'll do them in real time this time because I think it'll be a nice flow to the conversation. First and foremost, how are you doing today? What did you make of the news when you heard it this morning?
You know, Coach, I have to say this because, this is something that probably nobody's talking about that I need to bring up. Okay. Because I know personally over the last month, Bubba the Love Sponge has been going through a living hell. And Bubba about a month ago, maybe even longer, started reporting on Hulk's health situation that was rather grave, very grave. Nobody was reporting on any serious issues regarding Hulk, and Bubba was. And during that time, I was in touch with Bubba maybe twice a week.
Okay.
And Bubba was giving me specifics about what the problem was and what was going on with his heart. And they're trying to put a new valve in there. And he's in a coma right now. And he no longer has the ability to speak. Bubba was getting into real specifics. And Bubba made it clear to me. He's like, Vince, I'm getting death threats over this. You have no idea the hate that I'm getting over this because I am the only one reporting the truth. And I remember I even said to Bubba during this time, Coach, I said, listen, you know they were like brothers.
At one time they were, yeah, for sure.
The situation went down with the recording in the bedroom and the relationship was severed.
Yep.
But Bubba still loved the dude. So when Bubba is reporting all this and telling me all this is a friend that's getting heartbroken. And I even said to him at one point, I said, Bubba, I said, if this is as dire as you say it is, F wrestling, F everything else, you need to go down to the hospital and visit. You need to make peace with him. If this is the only chance you're going to have. And he said to me, he goes, Vince, I'd love to. They would never allow me anywhere near the place. And he was really torn up about it. And Coach, I was saying to myself at the time, okay, I know three things. Number one, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that Bubba knew people in Hulk's inner circle. There's no question about that. They were best buddies for years. So I know he was talking to people that were very close to the situation. Then, secondly, I'm asking myself the question, why on earth would Bubba ever make any of this up? Hey, bro, it's not like the two of them didn't go through enough lawsuits. Can you imagine the lawsuits he could be opening himself up to? That made no sense whatsoever. But here was the third thing, Coach. Eric saying he's okay, and his wife was saying he was fine, and Jimmy Hart was doing karaoke with Nick. What was the one constant, Coach? We were never hearing from Hulk.
Ever. We haven't seen him in a video or a statement at all.
Exactly. And that's why I knew when you put those three things together, I'm like, Bubba is right.
I thought so too.
And I got to tell you this, Coach. Listen, man, they have their reasons for having kept this private. Okay. And we can only speculate as to what those reasons were, Coach. We know Hulk has a lot of business partners. Okay. And maybe that they were worried about him, hurting, the business relationships if he was in this state. For all we know, Coach, maybe they thought he was going to kick out. Maybe they really believed he was going to be okay. But what I kept saying all along is, listen, Coach, let's be honest, and a lot of people are going to want to stay away from this, okay? There were a lot of things Hulk Hogan did and said in his life that were not cool. You know that firsthand. We've talked about it on this show. So you can't ignore the fact. Now, the one thing else, Coach, and I'm sure we're Christian guys, okay? So we know, bro, we're all flawed. We're all effed up. We are all going to say and do the wrong things over and over and over again. We are not perfect. So that I always understand that. So whereas there were a lot of people that may not have been fans of Hogan, Coach, he had millions and millions and millions of people that loved him and revered him and grew up with him. And that's why I was saying throughout this entire process, Coach, if what Bubba was saying was true, wouldn't you want every single one of those people praying for this guy?
The answer is yes. And also, I mean, I've done several interviews today. They all get wrapped up into one. But a couple of them, they said, yeah, towards the end, he had found the Lord and he was asking for forgiveness for a lot of these things. And it tells me, hey, you're spot on. I saw some of the videos that Bubba the Love Sponge did, and he was talking about it, and he was very hesitant, but he delivered the news, And to me, the best word that I could have used for myself today, and I can only speak for me, is conflicted. And my dad, who is United Methodist pastor for over 40 years, he always taught me A, forgiveness, or B, when the time comes for a life to end, all of the other stuff at that moment does not matter.
Right.
And I'm quite sure that Hulk is regretful, because just like we talk about Vince in a much different way than this, you never want to work your entire life and build something. And a lot of what we have, Vince, is based off, especially when you're public and you're a star like Hulk was, is our reputation, is what people say about us. And when we pass, what on a day like today and the next few days, but then after that, what's going to happen? We're all going to move on. And we'll mention Hulk and we'll mention the things that he did and the impact that he had. But that's what I thought of today, because I said it'd be very easy, because I just saw an interview that Seth Rollins did where he was like, listen, I'm not a fan and I don't want to work with him. I want to be around him. And that's valid. That's valid. I was in the room, and we can discuss it if you want to. I'm cool with it. When he was forced to apologize for the stuff that he said on tape, and his daughter has not spoken to him for a very long time over it. It was her boyfriend, and for a payday. He did it for a payday. And one of the anchors said, do you think he would have apologized if he wouldn't have had the payday from Saudi hanging in the balance? I've never had anybody ask me that question before. And I don't know if he would have or not, but I don't know if he would have done it at that time. And how much do you think the legacy issue bothered him towards the end? Because it would bother me if I had worked 70 some years or whatever, and then that's what people were talking about on the day that I passed suddenly.
Yeah, Coach, it's tough. Coach, listen, here's where I always go back to. Because you and I know the wrestling business, but his heyday was way before our time. Okay. Now, unless you were around 40 years ago. People will never understand the impact that this guy had on the wrestling industry. Let's just talk about professional at this point.
Yep.
He took something that was niche. He took something that, quite frankly, people laughed at, and he turned it into mainstream, and he turned it into pop culture. Mm-hmm. That's what he did. He did that. Now, there was a lot of supporting players, but he did that. But, Coach, here's the one thing I always say, and I'm not making excuses for the guy. This is the reality. Coach, back then, guys got paid according to the house.
Yes.
Okay? He was the top dog. The top dog. He was the biggest. He was the biggest wrestler in the industry. He had every single person on that roster gunning for his spot. He was alone at the top of that mountain, and everybody else from Warrior to Savage to Boss Man to Andre, everybody else wanted that spot. Now, bro, when you're put in a position like that, Coach, all of a sudden now it's the survival of the fittest. Now, all of a sudden it's I'm going to do whatever I have to do, see whatever I have to say in order to stay on top of the mountain, because, Coach, those below you are playing that same game.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking, and we talk about this a lot, Coach. We are talking about the greatest politicians in the game on the planet. Politicians that are better than politicians.
There's no doubt.
That's what we're talking about. So that I always bring that up with Hulk. We will never understand what it would be like to be in that position when everybody's gunning for your spot and you're trying to hold on. They're playing dirty, so you can't play clean. You're going to have to play dirty as well. And the reason why I say that, Coach, is, Coach, let's face it. We look at guys like Hulk Hogan. We look at guys like Ric Flair. We look at some of the legends in this business. Coach, it was the wrestling business that made them the people that they are. It was the wrestling business that shaped them into the people they are. I'm sure when Terry Bollea was young and Terry Bollea was playing baseball and he was an all-star baseball player when he was young and he was growing up, I guarantee you this wasn't the guy that we later knew as Hulk Hogan. This is what the industry creates, and it's what the environment creates. So it's me, of all people. I was the one who got, well, that doesn't work for me, brother. I got that firsthand, Coach.
Oh, there's no question about it. And we had, on the other side of the same coin that you're talking about, we had $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase on today. And he talked about how everybody on the roster, because they had multiple tours, kind of like with Raw and SmackDown, and every one of the boys wanted to be on his shows because of the talent pool that house shows brought in. It was completely reversed than the way it is now. Yes. And everyone, we're gunning for his spot, but they wanted to be on that show because their paychecks were just bigger. That's what, and every wrestler is paranoid about the next check, the next show you're going to be on. And they didn't have these huge guarantees back then like they had now. And so that's why almost every single interview you've heard today or over the last 40 years, it's kind of like Phil Mickelson with Tiger Woods. Everybody thinks they hate each other, but Phil's like, wait, I'm rich because of Tiger Woods. I'm grateful because of Tiger Woods. And if you look at some of the guys who made millions during our time, the Rocks, the Stone Colds, they made that money because the business built up, because Hulk Hogan did the heavy lifting from WrestleMania 1 to WrestleMania 10 into the 90s before he went to WCW. And that's why I use the word impact today. Because regardless of what anybody says about him as a person, the impact on the business, there's nobody that had a bigger impact than he did.
Yeah. Coach, I was just I just did my show with Ray of Harlem Heat, and we were talking about the incident when he addressed the locker room that you were talking about. And one of the things Stevie Ray said was people don't know how to deal with race. Some people don't know how to deal with it. Some people don't know how to talk about it. In that situation, Coach, let me just ask you, I want to know what your hindsight is and your thought is. Why do you think he apologized the way he did rather than, you know what, I effed up, I absolutely screwed up, it'll never happen again, and from the bottom of my heart, I'm sincerely sorry? Why do you think he didn't go that route?
Wow, so, God, I mean, I have what I believe to be true. I just don't know if I want to say it, because the way he apologized was blaming it on alcohol.
Right, I know, right.
Yeah, and when you don't own something like that so long after you did it, like if it were me, man, I would be falling all over I wouldn't wait for them to call me with a payday.
Yeah,
It would
right,
have been like, let me stand in front of the locker room immediately. Like,
right,
I'm getting in front of this.
right.
So it could have been a combination of things. It could have been he really didn't think he did anything wrong, which I hope that's not the case. Or embarrassment. And I think that when you put it on something else, you say, listen, that's not really me. That's not who I am. And it was because of this. That to me, especially, and I know the other, there was like 8 or 10 black talent in the room. I think we all kind of felt that way. It's like you either own it or you don't. And then you throw in the fact that the timing and the payday, that's what a lot of the guys were talking about. And again, I had been gone for a while. I had just gotten back. So I was literally in the back of the room. And I it's not that I felt sorry for him, because I've always liked Hulk. I had such a unique thing with him, Vince, because I had this room on the road where I had my own crew every week, and Hulk found out that it was always in a locker room. So you had behind my curtain, you had lockers and the showers. So he would come in and he would dress in there every week to be away from everybody else. Mm-hmm. So we had incredible conversations and stories that I wish I could tell, but I can't. That he would tell us about the road in the 80s, the stuff they would do, the partying all night and driving the next morning, still hitting the gym. So, it was an unbelievable scene back then. And then we would also talk about how he would be gone sometimes, Vince, 6 to 8 weeks at a time. Yeah. Because they're wrestling 28, 29 days a month. And then he's going to shoot a commercial or be in a video game. And it's not like today where you could just, go body scan yourself. So I used the word conflicted earlier today because I'd like to focus on, because I hope that when I pass, and I was the first show on ESPN radio when Stuart Scott passed. It's the only time in my entire career and life where I couldn't control my emotions. He meant that much to me. And so I've always felt like when somebody dies that I'm a fan of, or I know, that I want to do my best to honor them. Yeah. Because I also know that I've done a lot of stupid stuff in my career, and I hope I'm not judged by one moment or one video or one thing. But that took it to me a step further. So I think there's a lot of reasons. I just think that he was embarrassed at that time. And to see him come back at the Republican National Convention and be involved there, I think there's a lot of people in America now that because of the news cycle, they move on very quickly, and and a lot of people may not even have known about it. Yeah. Now, the wrestling crowd did. They booed the heck out of him when he came back. But I think a lot of people, he was always just the Hulk Hogan they knew from the 80s, and they were paying tribute. And to be honest with you, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I really am.
Coach, what would, again, this is what I'm trying to put my finger on, because again, like I said, man, he had legions and legions and legions of fans for decades and decades and decades and decades. At the end, he's in these dire straits, and there was this veil of secrecy. And like I said, man, if I'm a fan of Hulk Hogan and I know he's going through this, I want to have the opportunity to drop to my knees and pray for this guy. Why do you think there was such a veil of secrecy around what his true condition was at the end?
I think because he was at home, and I saw a couple of reports that, and this is the crazy part to me, because I don't feel like, and sometimes, and this happens in the wrestling business, we all feel, because we're in a bubble, that we're a little more important than what we are at the stage. People tend to try to stay relevant longer than in a normal. And so I heard that they had like tons of security, and they took him out in one, and another ambulance went in a different way, and all this. And I was like, wait a second. This is a 71-year-old man. Yeah, he used to be a star. He's not anymore. And he's just trying to survive and live out the rest of his life. And I didn't quite understand. I think there is a business tie to it, because they just launched the new wrestling thing with Bischoff, and they just announced that they got a TV deal, and it launches in August at some point. And he's been the one, him and Eric were on all, Today's Show and all these different things. I think, to be honest, it was more of a business thing than it was anything else. And then when he went home, I'm like, okay, he's home. He's going to be okay. He's going to get out. He's going to be fine. And then boom, just in just a couple of days, this happens. And I think it hit a lot of people because of the secrecy. That's why a lot of people are reacting this way. I mean, I saw Ric Flair on TMZ. He is beside himself with this news, grieving. And I understand it, because I told you with Stewart. But I think you're going to get a lot of different reactions from a lot of people. But I think at the end of the day, just like remember Tiger Woods, he's my favorite athlete of all time. He had 3 years that were the worst 3 years any athlete's ever gone through. And so I also believe this, Vince, and you and I are believers, and we pray, and I believe in a lot more things now after my dad went through his heart transplant. I'm never going to condemn somebody off of one thing, and the life that he led, the impact that he had, there's got to be a lot of good there. There's got to be a lot of good there, and a lot of joy. And the wrestling business, especially back then, there was a lot of joy, that was given, remember the cartoons and Saturday night's main event. As a kid, I took a nap so I could stay up till 10:30 to midnight. That's what I remember. My dad texted me this morning, and my dad, who's almost 80 years old, he's like, let's remember. And that's all he had to say, because me and my dad are very, very close, and he's still giving me advice to this day. So I think that, I hope that people look at a lot of the joy, and then you look at the big moments, Vince, that he had. And WrestleMania 1, think about it. Without him, there is no WrestleMania. WrestleMania 3, that's a moment. WrestleMania 18, that's a moment. To me, we talk about it, you and I, all the time. We talk about moments. I don't know that, my man, Brooklyn Brawler, look at that. Look at the Brooklyn Brawler.
There's a Vince. Did you see this Vince statement? I haven't seen this yet, Coach. Did you see that? Can we go back, producer man?
Yeah, I had that. See, he sent this to me earlier. Let me. I got it here. I'll read it for everybody. Of course, he sends it in a Dropbox. All right. So here's what Vince McMahon said on Twitter today. The world lost a treasure. Today, Hulk Hogan was the greatest WWE superstar of all time, in caps. Someone who was loved and admired around the world. He was a trailblazer, the first performer who transitioned from being a wrestling star into a global phenomenon. His grit and unbridled thirst for success were unparalleled and made him a consummate performer. He gave everything he had to the audience, whom he appreciated, respected, and loved. He leaves us with one of his favorite expressions. Train, take your vitamins, say your prayers. Today we pray for him. That's Vincent Kennedy McMahon on Twitter today.
What about, man, that's, look at those last 4 words, Coach, coming from Vince McMahon.
I'm quite sure Vince is in a different mental state today than he has been.
Wow. That's, if you know Vince, those last 4 words are wow.
That's not normally him. And I will tell you this, that towards the end of my time there, my dad would come out on the road and he would sit with Vince. He would sit with Shawn Michaels. He sat with a lot of guys that were not believers and they were not Christians or religious, whatever you want to call it. And he would help them and he would pray with them. And if there's one guy that I never thought would get to that point, it's Vince. I hope for Vince's sake he is.
Me
Because
too.
again,
Me
I
too.
think one thing we have to remember, Vince, the people that watch and it's really wrestling Twitter and is they love to be negative and they love to crush people. We live a long time, God willing. It's really hard to be mistake proof
Yeah.
for 50 years or
Oh
60
God.
years,
Oh God. Yeah.
and so it's in and I thought back today, I thought, man, and I'm sure you have too, you had such an up close and personal relationship with him in the 90s. What was that like to be around at such a pivotal time in the business when he transitioned? And we'll get to the super stickers, guys, I promise. But he transitioned, and because of the NWO and the heel turn, he kind of made the business relevant again, like 12, 15 years after WrestleMania.
Yeah, and think about the chance that he took. Think about that for a second. Here was a guy that was coach. Here's the thing, and I have to say this, guys. If you didn't experience Hulk Hogan 40 years ago like we did, you have zero idea of the impact this guy had. We lived through it. I lived through it. Coach lived through it. We know the impact he had. I worked with Rock. I worked with Austin. The impact Hogan had during his time was tenfold. There's no question about it. And think about that, Coach. Think about, you've got the biggest baby face in the history of professional wrestling. Now he's going to take the chance of turning heel. That's a chance. That can totally backfire. And he doesn't have to do it, Coach.
He didn't have to. No.
Yeah, exactly. He could have said he could have said that doesn't work for me, brother. But he knew. If I want to be relevant, I need to evolve. And that's what he did. And he became just as big as heel as he was a babyface. And think about that, Coach. How many people can really, really accomplish that at his level?
Oh, at that level, I mean, you're counting on one hand, if even that many. And the thing about it, if I'm a young talent, I'm looking back at character development. How do I get myself over? We talked about it with Seth Rollins when he turns heel, and then they left his music the same for a week or two. Those little things matter. When Hulk turned heel, everything was different. The look, the black, whiskers, and the shirt, all of that fun yellow, red, that was gone. That was on purpose, and it worked because when you looked at him, he looked like a bad guy from a movie. He did, and that's what he was. Also, it didn't hurt because we know nobody loves money more than Hulk. He got a huge payday to jump over, just like Bret Hart did, just like a few other guys did. And so if you're coming to me and this, I was also thinking about merch because we talk about T-shirts. He had one shirt in his career, basically. One. The yellow one with the rips in the back, and then kind of the red. Think about if he was in merch today, how many different ideas they would come up with. Yeah. They'd put his sayings on, so he didn't have the merch money to lose like he would have today. But there's certainly, from a perception standpoint, turning heel for him, I think it's a much bigger deal than Cena's, don't you?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, it was Hulk rules, Hulkster, and NWO. I mean, that was it. Those were the three shirts throughout his entire career. But, Coach, I want to say this because I don't think people truly understand this because, man, wrestlers never sell. I left TNA in 2012. Him and Eric probably came aboard sometime 2010. So they were there really for 2 years. Coach, I cannot tell you how many times I would see Hulk by himself, or Hulk getting out of a car, or Hulk getting into a car. Bro, when nobody was around, you could feel the pain that he was in. You could feel it. You could see it with every step. But when people are around, much like Taker, yeah, I say this, Coach, I say this about Taker all the time. Coach, I was the kind of guy like you are a kind of guy. The show is over. I am now going to go thank everybody because thanks to them, I'm able to take care of my family. Okay, period, end of story. Taker was always on last. So there'd be nobody in the building, Coach, and I got to go look for Taker. And I cannot tell you how many times Taker is in the training room with Francois, flat on his back in agonizing pain. And I would just look in and I'd be, how did he just do that match out there? How is that even? You would have never known. And you know how these guys are. They don't sell. And Hulk didn't sell in front of other people. But my God, when you caught a glimpse of him alone down the hall or walking into the bathroom or getting out of a car, bro, this guy was in more pain than I think we'll ever know.
It's so funny you bring that up, or not funny, interesting, because when you walk and I think there's a lot of reason Vince didn't want people backstage, like entertainment access, anybody that wasn't part of the company. He was paranoid about a lot of things. But when Hogan would walk from far, he would walk normal, and then he'd get behind that last curtain to get in the backstage area, and then all of a sudden, man. And I think that's part of the reason he liked dressing in my room, because then nobody had to see how long it took him just to put on the reinforcements. And I've had people ask me over the years, why do they do it? Why do they go so far? Because the NFL, Tom Brady played till he's 45. They're like, man, that's shocking. In wrestling, you've got all your top stars over 40 right now. Hogan, Flair, DDP, they didn't even become stars till after 35 years of age. I tell people that's why they did it. Imagine Hulk Hogan walking into a bank and saying, hey, I need a job. It can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. Flair's the same way. So how do you make the amount of money you want to make for as long as you want to make it? Well, you've got to wrestle, or you've got to be a Paul Heyman. There's only one Paul Heyman that's going to make that kind of money. So for Hogan to make millions and millions of dollars, or for Taker, and Taker's found another avenue with podcasting and being a coach, but he's not making as much as when you're a full-time wrestler. That's why they do it. They're addicted to the game. Yeah. They're addicted to the game. I mean, Flair still believes that he can go at 76 or whatever the case might be. It's the most unique, addicting business in the world, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say.
Man, I'll always, Coach, I always say this, and this is what I regret. And these are the things that I will always remember. Coach, I've said this numerous times. If there was no Eric Bischoff, I think I would have had a great relationship with Hulk Hogan. And I'll tell you why I say that.
Please.
Eric was always in the middle, in between Hulk and I. And as long as Eric was around, I was never going to have let me put it to you this way. I was never going to have the relationship with Hulk that I wanted. Mm-hmm. I wanted this. I looked up to this guy when I was a kid. I was raised on Hulk Hogan like everybody else. So obviously, when I'm working with him now, obviously I respect him and want to have a relationship with him. But because, Eric's his sidekick, Eric hated my guts, he formed a little bit of an opinion to Hulk about me. But I can tell you this, Coach, there were one-on-one phone conversations that I had with Hulk while I was at TNA. And man, bro, when I was talking to him one-on-one, it was like we had been friends our entire lives. It was a totally, totally different person when I got him alone. And that was the one thing I always regretted, because I had such an unbelievable respect for him and what he accomplished in the business and paving for the road for so many people that, of course, when I'm working with him, I want him to understand how much I respected him. I wanted Ric Flair to understand how much I respected them. But the tough thing is, Coach, the older and older they got and remained in the business, the more paranoid they got.
And that's where I was going to go. And here's why that is, Vince. There are, whether it's Hogan with Jimmy Hart or whether it's Flair with the millions of people that love being around him, to stay sustainable for that long, you have to have people that are willing to do things for you. And over the years, if Hulk said something to Jimmy Hart, how high? How high do I need to jump? Where do I need to be? And you got to have those one or two people that believe that you walk on water. So I believe that part of the reason you had to deal with that is because Hogan had to put on this persona because he had enough people around him, whether it's Bischoff or whether it's whatever, that said, "Oh no, Hulk, we're going to be behind you." But there's that too. And I always felt that was difficult. Flair went through the same thing. There were so many people that loved saying, "Yeah, I just helped Flair put a roof on a building and I didn't charge him."
Right.
I think, I'm like, is that good business for you? But they're in the wrestling business. There's so many of those people around. And I never had, people like that. Of course, I'm not on their level, but to sustain and get all the things, because it can be very expensive lifestyle to live that way.
Yeah.
People don't realize that back in the day, if you were main eventing and Flair said, "Hey, limousine riding, flying, kiss stealing," all of that he paid for himself. The promoter would pay him one check, then that would come out of the check. Well, he would take free, all that stuff matters. And I think that's a lot of the reason that when Hoke got on the phone with you one-on-one, nobody's listening.
Right.
Nobody's paying attention. Nobody's seeing that.
Right.
And I think that was a big,
and those were the most special times for me because I think I got a glimpse of like who he really was. You know what I mean?
Of course. Vince, there are a lot of people that want to weigh in today. So let's get to a few of them and we'll react a little bit. Thank you guys very much for indulging us today. It is by far the highest live audience we've ever had, and it's not close because you guys really care about this topic. So thank you. Smartest Mark alive. We'll start there. It says, Vince and Hulk, none of us would be tuning into the show because the industry we all love wouldn't be here. You don't have to forgive their despicable actions, but we must respect their legacy. I think it's pretty well said. I think that's pretty well said. And I do think there would be a wrestling business, Vince, but not the one we have today. I think he's right about that.
1,000%. Yes.
Robert Rose says the first 11 WrestleManias, the main event, one or both performers has passed away. Wow. Rest in peace. I guess I have to go back and look at all those.
Wow.
I didn't know that. know that. Even more reason, you just never know. Yep. Let's have fun while we're here.
Yes.
Patriot says, no, I feel there's no Mania without him. Why can't WWE go back to 90s style with characters, Vince?
God, I have to tell you, Patriots, to be honest, and I really hate saying this, Coach, I think we are so far past that and so far away from that, there's no going back. And I'm going to throw a different example at you, Coach.
Okay.
Who passed away the day before Hulk Hogan, 2 days before Hulk Hogan?
Ozzy Osbourne.
Why does the world know Ozzy Osbourne? There's a million heavy metal singers out there, Coach. Just like there's a million wrestlers. Why did the world know Ozzy Osbourne?
I'm assuming the answer is he was a character that did crazy things that...
Thank you. Ozzy Osbourne was a character. How do we know that, Vince? Real simple. Did you watch the Osbournes? Did you watch the guy at home that didn't know how to work a remote control? Did you watch the guy at home screaming at his wife because the dog pissed on the carpet? That was not the Prince of Darkness. Do you understand? You don't get to Hulk Hogan status and Ozzy Osbourne status in entertainment unless you are character. Wrestlers are a dime a dozen, but Patriots, we are so far gone from larger than life characters. I don't think there's any going back, Coach.
I hope you're wrong. I don't think that you are. I interviewed this kid, this Leon Slater kid. He's 20 years old, TNA. He's going to be a superstar. And he was an incredible interview. And I told him when we got done, I said, work on your promos, work on your character. And because he's got the in-ring stuff. And if I'm a young talent today, I am looking at all these interviews and I'm listening to them. And I'm listening to JR say he was the greatest babyface. How he only had 2 wrestling moves, but he was a great character. He had the catchphrases. He had the 2 or 3 put onto a T-shirt, but they never did. And people bought into that. And then he was the all-American guy, and he bought into that. And Vince, I do believe we won't go back as a total wrestling society, but if somebody decided to try it and they committed to it and they followed through with it, they could be a gigantic star.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we need.
Maybe you and I should create one.
Yeah.
Let's create one. Let's create one.
Yes.
All right, one of our favorites. He is a premium member. Awesome Sauce says the only thing real in wrestling is the money and the miles. Captain Lou. If wrestling is a business, treat it like a business. Kevin Nash, Hogan made the boys money. Boy, Captain Lou was a character.
Oh,
remember that song? Captain Lou, Captain Lou, Captain Lou, Captain Lou.
Oh
man.
My favorite.
When managers were managers, he
Coach,
come out. Oh my God.
Do you want to know, Coach, when I first kind of got into business, I did a little radio show in 1991, and the captain was my first guest.
What was he like?
Oh, absolutely tremendous. Just a walking, talking, nonstop promo. And I was in all my glory, Coach. I'll never forget it.
I love it when wrestling fans will ask me, what did you love the most about it? Wait, I'm telling you, if you get to a point where you're a character that has freedom and you're in demand, and I've kind of felt like that today a little bit. I had nonstop. I've done 4 interviews, 2 more after this show, Fox and all these big places. Like when you're in demand and you have people booking you and all you have to do is be yourself, there is no more fun place to be than in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah,
it absolutely is true. It really is.
Then why in God's name, Coach, are you and I trying to get hired back in the wrestling business? Why, Coach? Why?
I feel like I'm going about it all wrong. What else can I do to get Triple H back on my good side? All right, Sam the Man, premium member. Thank you. A big part of wrestling died today. Rest ease, Hulkster. Certainly. Coach and Bro, huge fan. Vince in memoriam. Please sing Hulk Hogan, R.I.B. to the GOAT. You can do it for the good people.
Would he want that though, Coach? You think Hulk would want that?
I don't care what Hulk wants.
I think Hulk would want this because I think this is much better.
Give it to the people.
Much better than Hulk Hogan. When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside. Who didn't know that song, Coach? Who didn't know that song?
All right, so let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. If there's one image, because I have 2 in my head, if there's one image of Hulk Hogan that will always be remembered, just one, if they're taking a snapshot, to you, what's the one biggest moment in Hulk Hogan's career? Mine is simple.
Well, I don't know if we're on the same page here, because to me, perhaps the most iconic shot in the history of the business was the Hulk Andre stare down. That was, I don't know if you will ever have 2 icons bigger than that in a stare down in our lifetime.
That was
2?
Sort of my number 2. Mine was if you were taking a picture of the body slam of Andre.
Oh, God.
Right when the whole thing shook after he did it, and knowing the backstory that he messed with Hogan all day.
Yep.
And wouldn't let Hogan come in and talk to him. And I remember when Timmy White told me the story, because Timmy White drove Andre around for years and years. And he said he wanted to mess with Hulk because it was the biggest moment in the wrestling business. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to let Hulk body slam me. Hulk was like anxiety driven. He was like, man, what? That's the whole payoff is
Yeah.
I've got to body slam Andre. And he was messing with him the whole time. And he obviously got it done. Mine, if you were to take a photo of him walking down the hallway at Madison Square Garden with the red shirt on, pointing at the camera, Cyndi Lauper coming beside. How many times have you seen that 5 seconds right before he turns the corner? And anybody that's ever had the honor of performing at MSG knows exactly where that hallway is. And every time I've seen, I'm like, man, I loved working that building.
Coach, here, this is coming from a writer now, and how many hundreds and hundreds of angles and storylines have we seen? And I will still say to the day, nothing comes close to the impact. Bro, think of how simple this is, guys. When Andre ripped that cross off of his neck. There was nothing bigger than that. Since that moment, there has been nothing bigger than that one. Of ripping of the cross, Coach. Think about how simple that is and what that meant. Unbelievable.
No doubt about it. Sometimes it doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be well thought out and impactful.
Yes.
All right. Awesome Sauce is back with us. He says the one thing about the Hogan scandal is like Lawler, Vince, Austin, Deborah, Sean, they've all done objectively worse stuff, yet don't get any criticism, never apologize for their past. I mean, I was there for a lot of the stuff you're talking about, Awesome Sauce. There's different ways to look at everything, and certainly some of that stuff back when we were there, I was the first one to see Austin and Deborah, and the only reason it's a scandal is because they were like married to other people, but it not at that time. So to me, I mean, I guess I don't look at stuff that seriously, Vince. It's life, and other people have done just as bad things, just not on camera, not for a public company. I guess I feel a lot differently because I know all the people he just named there. I know all of them, and I like all of them. I really do, So it is what it is. Awesome Sauce says the hype for No Holds Barred for months to go see that movie. All those memories just came to me. I saw that movie over Back to the Future 2. I loved Back to the Future 2, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great movie. I actually took my young kids to see No Holds Barred in a movie theater. I actually took them.
Was that his worst movie that he ever was a part of?
I can't say, Coach, because that may have been the only one I ever saw.
You never saw Rocky 3?
Oh yeah, well, right, but I don't consider that a Hulk movie. I'm talking about like, so what was it, Suburban Commando and The Nanny, and I never saw any of those, man.
Those were horrible.
Yeah.
But none are worse than Marine 1 through 12. All right, Awesome Sauce. Where we go here? Oh, I skipped one. The loss of Hogan legit made me tear up. I got the first WrestleMania game for the NES. That's right, in '89, and wore that thing out like the stuff with Mr. T is the foundation of National Wrestling. RIP. A great story about Mr. T. I met him a few times. What an icon! And this is one thing about Hulk that nobody can take away. It's really hard when you have what I call the wrestling stink on you. And I dealt with it going to ESPN. They don't want to touch you. Oh no, you're part of wrestling. And he was able to make it cool. He made it mainstream. They did all of the Saturday morning cartoons, but he told me his story. And you got to take it with a grain of salt, Vince. You got to take it with a grain of salt. We were sitting around one day, and Hulk was talking about WrestleMania 1. And they were both scheduled to make anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 for the main event. And now, keep in mind, in the 80s, you're not going to go to a bank on a Sunday afternoon and get out a loan, okay? Let's make that very clear. So he told me that they realized that the hype for WrestleMania was bigger than they expected. So he said, we didn't feel like we were getting paid enough. So they called Vince. This is according to Hulk, telling me and my crew. They called Vince and said, we want money or we're not showing up. We're not going to come and be a part of the main event. And so Vince had literally mortgaged everything that he had. Vince was still living in a trailer, for God's sake, and putting on WrestleMania 1 with a pedicure and a manicure, I might add. And I said to Hulk, I said, how much did you ask for? He goes, well, coach, brother, brother, I never want to kiss and tell, brother, but, it was probably double. We were making like $250,000. I said, you asked for another 500 grand? He goes, well, it's been a lot of years. It's hard to, but yeah, I guess. Can you imagine, Vince? There's only one place you can go and get that kind of cash on a Sunday afternoon, and the interest is high on those types of things.
Are we talking about these guys, Coach?
We're talking about those guys.
Oh,
We're talking
boy.
about those guys. We're talking about those guys. And I wasn't about to call bullshit.
Yeah, no.
I wasn't about to call bullshit on Hulk because the story was great. I was like, even if the story is bullshit, this is a great story.
Oh,
and there was only like 6 of us sitting around, it was on a random Monday before Raw, and he loved story time. We used to call it story time with Hulk. Story time with Hulk.
Yeah.
He loved it. He loved
it. The stories he had, can you imagine all those years, all those peoples that he worked with? Unbelievable.
They never like to go back to the hotel. The thing about wrestling people, for those of you who are watching right now, I would have PTSD about the walls in my hotel room because we'd spend, 200 nights plus. I hated going back to my hotel. So you'd stay out all night. Sometimes we'd stay up until we went to the airport just because I didn't want to be alone in my room. Imagine if you're Hulk Hogan and you got every nightclub, probably every strip club too, if I'm being honest, that wants you to come and hang out and party. Oh man, very intoxicating, Vince.
How much swag you think he got over the course of his career, Coach?
Oh gosh. Well, I remember I used to do stuff with The Rock, and say like I remember we were in Phoenix one time, and as a thank you, they would always give you a shirt or a jersey. Rock loved these hockey jerseys. So I would always get one too because I'm the one that made the video happen. So like you'd have The Rock come in and be like, "Hey, Phoenix Kaido's at the Rock," and then they put it up on the scoreboard at in between the first and second period, whatever. Rock used to complain about getting recognized everywhere, and I'd be like, "Rock, maybe don't wear the hockey jersey that Phoenix said that says The Rock on the back when you're walking through LaGuardia."
Exactly.
How about you don't do that?
Right.
Rock loved to complain about stuff that he could easily control just because it was a low-key flex. One time, Rock, I kid you not, when you get off the plane, you walk up the jetway into the concourse.
Yeah.
He became such a big star that we had a guy named Jimmy. He was the head of our security. It was supposed to be for the whole company. It turned into just for The Rock. Yeah. And one time we landed in Chicago where the rest of us are, we're connecting. Rock comes off when we're in first class, and I'm walking beside him, and then all of a sudden he's not there. I turn around. He's walking down the stairs into a police car to drive him around to his connecting plane.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought to myself, that's a star right there.
Yeah.
That's a star right there.
It definitely is, yes.
There's so many of you out there today. We'll get to all these, I promise. To both, what's your favorite Hulk Hogan memory? That's from Instagram, a wrestling historian. What's your favorite Hulk Hogan memory?
God, I would have a coach because I never experienced anything like it, even when I was in the business, even when I was writing. God, the build up to Hulk and Andre. I don't know if there's ever been a greater build with more anticipation in any other match in the millions and millions of matches in the history of wrestling. That was the one where you just had no idea what we're going to do.
Yeah. I think that skyrocketed the wrestling business after WrestleMania 3.
Yes.
Mine, and again, this is our memory. This is that's the question. And for me, it's obviously one that I was a part of. And it was WrestleMania 18. It was Toronto. The hype for the match was gigantic. They wrote in a skit that I got to do with The Rock. He made me get on my knees and say, "What up, G?" I'll never forget. My dad thought it was blasphemy that I called God G. And he's like, "Say your prayers, eat your vitamins." And it was such a creative way to put over all of the catchphrases that Hogan had that maybe the new generation of fans didn't know.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I said, I've got to go out onto the floor. And I rarely did that because when any of us would go out on the floor, if the fans saw you standing there, they would start yelling at you. And that was the fastest way to get heat with the boy is, hey, why is coach out there distracting from the match?
Right.
But this one, it was almost like the wrestling business had been waiting. They were two mega powers.
Yeah.
And then I encourage anybody watching right now, go look at this match on video, whatever. And they stood there, Vince. And I remember thinking to myself, this is as powerful as it gets in what we do. Having the crowd at a fever pitch, everybody standing on their feet until they locked up. For The Rock and Hogan, I'll give him credit, but it was mostly The Rock being self-aware enough to change the entire match they'd been working on for weeks.
Yeah.
Because the crowd was behind Hogan and Rock was the heel. They set up the match for the reverse. They thought Rock would be the babyface. And when I watched that, and I watched it at the highest level, I remember saying to myself, how did I get here? How did a little kid from Little Town, Kansas get here? And those are the moments I remember. And for me, it didn't get any bigger than that.
Coach, what year was that?
18. So 16 was my first in 2000. That had to be 2002.
So that was what, 23 years ago. So how Hulk is 48 years old.
Yeah, he's 48 at the time. Yeah.
That in itself is incredible. That in itself is a 48-year-old headlining in perhaps the biggest match in the history of the company.
I would take the perhaps word out of it.
Yeah.
It was the biggest match. I think to date, there's never been a bigger match than that.
Coach, do you know, I hate to say this, Coach, I've never seen that match. I've never seen it.
You've never watched that match?
I've never seen that match.
Which tells me you've never seen my skit before the match.
No, I got to go. Well, now I have a reason.
The support that I felt for all of these months.
No,
sucked right out of the room.
Now I have to go back.
You got to go back and watch it. I mean, just watch the first 10 minutes.
Yeah,
just the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Ronnie Southern said it's hard to believe that 2 of the 3 original NWO members are no longer with us. Wow. Rest in peace, Hollywood Hogan. Rest in peace from Modest Music as well. It's very sobering, isn't it, Vince, when you get to our age, whether you're in your late 40s or in your 60s or like Hulk was in his 70s. This has started to happen to me a lot lately. And my dad's not in good health, my mom either. When you start to look at your mortality, and my daughter is only going to be in the house 1 more year, she's a senior, things mean a lot more to me now than they ever have before. And today is one of those days you stop and go, yeah, this is why.
Yep, you can't. I'm at the point now, Coach, where I can't wait around anymore. I can't think about what I'm going to do in a year. I no more now. You do it in now because nobody, Coach, is guaranteed tomorrow.
No doubt. I don't make plans for 5 years from now. I say this is where I'd like to be in 5 years.
Right.
But that's why I'm so aggressive, and we do so much because we love this, and we want to help as many as we can because there's so many fans out there that they consume bad stuff or they believe bad stuff, and we don't want that here. We don't want that here. Like it's a good day for you guys to be here. Patriots 12 says mine was Rocket Mania, epic stare down. I felt it. That's what we were just talking about. You're damn right. So many here. Hitesh says been national stars. Gorgeous George, but Hogan made it national and mainstream forever. All since follow his goat. Rest in peace. So many of these, Vince. To bathe, what's your okay? Got that. Okay, we got all those. I just want to make sure we get all these. Okay. Lonnie says I'm 7. I've never told anyone this other than my wife. When I was a kid, I was abused in a couple of different ways. When he was on my TV, he made me forget about the couple monsters in my life. Rest in peace. Lonnie, thank you for sharing that, honestly, and feeling safe enough to do that here. Vince, that's what your favorite people can do for you when you're in a situation that nobody knows about like that.
And those are things like Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea has no idea of. The number of lives that he really changed in so many ways. And you guys, this isn't lip service. You're seeing this from Lonnie. Hulk had no idea about this. Think about how many other Lonnies were out there that were living through Hulk, that were, like Lonnie, maybe getting abused or maybe poor, or maybe, there was no food on the table. Think about that. The number is endless.
I I always try to because it's our job to talk, and I'm so glad the good Lord allowed me to be able to talk, because this is how I earn my living, and I've had a blast at it my entire career. But these are the moments, Lonnie thing, and leave that up there for a second, producer man. It's this is why I enjoy this so much now, and you and I talk about off camera so much that we want to make this show mean something. And whether it's difficult topics, whether it's having fun, whatever it is, this is super important to us. And hopefully it becomes super important to you. Um, but that's really, really cool, Lonnie, that you would tell us that.
Right.
Aquarian Ninja, condolences to Hogan's family. Ted DiBiase and Mr. T are the only WrestleMania main eventers from the 80s living today. Appreciate those living today, family, friends, icons, etc. You know, the first time I met Mr. T, Brooklyn is one of the pictures that we have up there. Brooklyn Brawler is a unique individual, and Hogan found him. He was like a nobody trying to become a wrestler, and for some reason, Hulk Hogan took a liking to the Brooklyn Brawler, and he made him his driver. And this is how much juice Hulk Hogan had back in the day, because the Brooklyn Brawler became my assistant on the road, and he would tell us all these Hulk stories. And so Hulk got him a guaranteed $500 a show. Do you know how much money in the $500 a show was?
Yeah.
And he made Vince pay him that. And then he would drive. Now, some of the stories I can't talk about, but let's just say they were around the clock. Let's just say they never stopped going. Let's just say that's just kind of what they did. And so Brawler, over the years after he wrestled, he wanted to stay in the business. So they hired him to be basically, he would go get the guys when I needed to interview him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he started this whole thing, Vince. If we had a celebrity coming in, he would bring them into the room and interrupt me. So one time, I used to get so pissed. There was this famous guy from Dateline. You remember like that smooth voice? He would always do the feature stories on Dateline NBC. Storm something.
Yeah. I know who you mean.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah.
And so we were in Chicago, and Rock was becoming big, and I did a lot of recordings, and so I'm in the middle. We had this red light that was on, and all of a sudden the door comes flying open. There's Brawler right there, and Brawler comes in and he goes, Coach, you're not gonna believe who's out in the hallway. And this is how the whole thing started. And I said, who? He goes, Storm, whatever his name was. I go, Storm is not out there, and he was scheduled to be in Chicago to do a feature on The Rock. And I go, you know what, Brawler? If he's out, bring him in here. So he leaves. I tell the guys, all right, fire up the machine again. So I start going again. Hey, India, WWE's coming. Door comes flying open again. And it's Brawler with the guy, Storm, whatever. Producer man, help me out here. You know I'm talking about. So
Phillips?
Oh, yeah, it was Phillips. What was his first name, though? It wasn't Storm Phillips.
No.
It was, help me out, chat. Who am I talking about? Not Stone Phillips. Is it? Not Storm Phillips. It's God, it's gonna drive me insane. We'll find it. Black hair, super good looking, great voice. Stone
Phillips.
Yeah, I think it's Stone Phillips.
Okay.
So basically, he sits there, and Brawler starts talking to him, and he turns it around, and starts interviewing the Brawler because he had just read Rock's book. So that became a thing for us. So we're in North Carolina, and it was the early days of WWE taking every dollar they could get. And you remember 1-800-COLLECT?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? So
yeah.
Mr. T was a big endorser of 1-800-COLLECT. So we were in Greensboro, North Carolina, and we used to hide behind the curtain and gamble and play stuff so we didn't get caught by Vince or Shane McMahon, who tried to catch us all the time. And all of a sudden, comes flying open, and it's Brawler. Coach, guess who's outside in the hallway? And I said, who? He goes, Mr. T. I said, Mr. T is not out in the hallway, Brawler. He's just not. I said, if Mr. T's out in the hallway, bring him in here. That was our gimmick. So he turns around. We get right back to, and I was playing cards with Big Show. Imagine Big Show sitting in the littlest chair in a locker room you could ever find.
Yeah.
You thought it was going to snap like a twig.
Right.
All of a sudden, comes flying open. Mr. T is standing right there.
Oh, God.
And the first thing that came to his mind is, man, he's small. I couldn't believe how tiny he was. He was so, but that's what it, and Hogan brought him into the business. Hogan, that was the reason, man. And there's, oh God, I've got a million stories. I could talk for 5 hours with this kind of stuff, but I love the 6 degrees of separation, don't you? Where this guy's connected to this guy, connected to this guy. It's just, it's awesome. It's awesome. The nasty one says someone on X said Hogan Andre match and how big it was in the industry, and Meltzer said NATO.
Oh, stop!
Oh my God! Stop!
Stop it!
Stop!
Stop it! Don't rain on this parade, nasty one. Do not rain on this parade. Do not.
Oh my gosh! I've never met somebody more irrelevant. All right. Ty says, rest in peace, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Ozzy Osbourne, and Hulk Hogan.
You know, I want to mention something about that, Coach, because I was talking about this with Stevie Ray today. Man, think about, first of all, think about Malcolm Jamal Warner in the middle of Ozzy and Hulk Hogan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also think about, man, this poor actor, his entire body of work on the Cosby Show as we saw him grow up as Theo. Because of Bill Cosby and Bill Cosby's past, nobody can see it. Think about
because it doesn't air anywhere.
Think about how sad that is. His entire legacy and his work for years and years and years on that show and can't be shared by anybody. That's sad, man.
That was an iconic show, and I have seen some people online share glimpses of it. But I will say this, because I'm a TV fanatic, that he was on a show called The Resident, which was on Fox, and he was a doctor, and from like 2020 till 2023, I watched every episode. It was fantastic. Now, not a lot of people know he was on the show. I get that, but at least he has more than just the Cosby Show. But also, we're all, and this sucks about life, but it's just we get remembered for a day or two, and then the world just moves on.
I know.
And that's another thing that I have stuck in my head today is I don't care on my last day if people do shows like this. I care if what I do in the next, God willing, 30, 35 years, that when it is my time, that they say, man, he did good work there. He was really nice to that kid there. He did a lot of nice things over. That's what I care about.
Yeah.
And hopefully Hulk on his last, because he had a lot of conflicting things going on in his life. And when you're faced with mortality and you don't know what's after this, that's the thing that we never talk about. Right. When you're done, is there someplace else that you go? I don't know. We believe that there is, but you got to come to grips with your own mind, which can go in 1,000 different directions. After 71 years, it's a tough thing. All right, Ghost World Order. We've got a co-main eventer. He says, Vince, thank you for never being a Hogan hater. When I was a kid, my step pop would get high and beat me. I would watch Hulk and say, Hulk was here. He wouldn't let this happen. I love Hulk. He was a superhero to me. Rest in peace.
That's incredible, man. I mean, this is what we're talking about. These are the things you never, ever hear of. And thank you, Ghost World. That is incredible.
You never want to talk about it. And two of you, Lonnie and Ghost World Order, now have talked about it. And guess what? Nobody's made fun of you in the chat. Nobody's making fun of you here. This is a safe space, and this is what we can create. Because also another thing is, and I was never like this when I was in wrestling, because you never stop, is we now know how important mental health is. And I think in the wrestling business, we just saw Cora Jade. She's taking an indefinite leave of absence because her mental health can't take the wrestling business right now.
Yep.
It just can't. And that's a real thing. And it's nothing to be made fun of. It's to say, how can we help her so she can get back to do something that she's incredibly talented doing?
Yeah.
And certainly in the 80s and 90s, mental health was something nobody talked about.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it here. We'll do it here. So thank you for that as well. So we've gone about an hour, and I know we have a couple more stickers, but I kind of want to wrap it up. And thank you guys for tuning in today. And Producer Man will give me the last couple. But Vince, I kind of want to end by having you tell me, as far as impact is concerned, in a business that we've been in for 30, 40 years, that Hulk was in for 30 or 40 years, what is his impact going to be? Think about that for a second. We got a couple more real quick. I'll never forget when Hulk returned to SmackDown in '02 there and got at least a 10-minute standing ovation. It was amazing, Cold X. Rest in peace, Hogan. Hi, Coach and Vince. Quiet Man, thank you, Quiet Man, very much. What will his impact in your mind, what will it be moving forward, and will it stand the test of time?
Yeah. Coach, you hear this all the time, man, and this is definitely overused. But my God, man, if it was fitting, I think now is the time. And I don't use this phrase because I understand just the levity of it. It's the end of an era. No doubt. No doubt. The passing of Hulk Hogan is the end of an era of the wrestling I knew and the wrestling I grew up with and the wrestling I loved. And guys, listen, I'm not saying this because Hulk Hogan passed away. Every time it's brought up, you've heard me say this. There is no question who's at the front of Mount Rushmore. There's no question. I worked with Rock. I worked with Austin. Coach worked with some of the greats. When you're talking about the wrestling business and who did what for the wrestling business, nobody will ever have the impact that he had. I mean, and I say that without hesitation. It is the end of an era. His passing is really just the of a time that many of us just loved and cherished, Coach, and will never see again.
I think with maybe Rock to maybe 85%, but when you're talking about star power is crossing all lines, is having people when you walk down the road go, yeah, I know who that dude is. And there are stars within the NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, but do they walk down the street and you know who they are? Very few. Hulk Hogan was that. I remember both guys when I would watch them walk into a building, and the normal people who were working there, the staff, the security who were making $8 an hour, and Hogan would walk in the door and it was like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can make somebody go back to their childhood, which a lot of times as we grow up, become adulthood can suck.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. Making a living is hard. And when you could take somebody's mind just for a second and close your eyes and take you back, that's a magical place to be.
Yes.
And Hogan could do that. Rock could do that. That might be the only two. There are some big stars, but those two to me are just a little bit above. I think his impact will be uh, talked about for a long time. And I hope, like Nonsense McGee says, no sense in harboring anything once someone passes. It's over. Complicated man, indelible mark on the world, good or bad, rest in peace. I think as everybody starts to get over, I hope, Vince, that as a society, we can learn how to do what Nonsense McGee just said right there. There is no sense for us to pass today discussing everything, go, yep, he did this, 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 and this, and I hope he does. There's no point.
Yep.
There's
No.
no point. There really isn't. We have a few more to get to, and can I just say, Vince, our audience is amazing, and I don't
Yeah.
say that just flippantly. They are amazing. Vince, did you ever work with Horace Hogan?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I worked with Horace at WCW with Hulk. Great dude, man. Great individual. Very, very laid back. I enjoyed working with him. Yes.
B40. Heard about Hulk dying after visiting my dad who has dementia. My favorite memory is child watching Hulk with my dad. Enjoyed loved ones. Still here, everyone. B40, me too. My dad, like I said, he texted me today when he heard about this. And he was like, I had to take a nap. I'm near 50 years old. I had to take a nap just to stay up
Yeah.
and watch. So I get that. I get that. GAR says SummerSlam 1990. I was 9 and had just lost my mom. My uncle took me to the Spectrum where I met Hulk Hogan. He hugged me, said, "Believe in yourself," and signed my shirt. That moment still lives in my heart. Rest in peace, Hulkster. How cool must that have been?
Yeah.
9 years old, meeting Hulk. He must have looked like a mountain.
Forget it. That's my Dr. J story right there.
The Spectrum and Dr. J.
Yeah.
Mr. Taxman, we normally wouldn't read yours, but today's a special day. Just from your name. Great tributes, Coach and Vince. End of an era. Thank you, Mr. Taxman. And I know we couldn't end without a main event spot from Jimmy Fingers. This man has become our number one fan, with all due respect to Kimberly. Jimmy Fingers, a main event. He didn't even want to come on the video today. He says, my favorite chronological Hogan moments. You get all of them read for a main event. 1, when he slammed Andre on Saturday Morning TV in 1980. Okay. When Backlund brought him back after Rocky III, the Samoans. Boy, he turned into a megastar at that point. WrestleMania 3 with Andre. NWO Bash at the Beach. Coming home with the NWO in 02. And then Rock and Hogan, which was also 02. A lot of moments there, Vince.
Oh, yeah, a lot of more. And there's so many more than that. I mean, so many more than that.
One more, and we'll end it there. My favorite Hogan moment, Catman 580, was when he joined Hall and Nash and cut that promo. My dad and I have quoted that promo many times and bonded over the NWO. I can say this, Vince, when they came back to the WWE, this coincides with, golly, you guys don't stop in the best. This coincides when they brought them back, Vince. They were at the LAX Marriott, and they were going to debut the next day. We had just 9/11 pushed the Super Bowl back. So we were in Vegas and LA instead of wherever we were supposed to. So I got so drunk at the hotel on Super Bowl Sunday, and they had a house show in Reno. So by the time the boys walked in, I remember distinctly I was mixing Coronas beers and Bloody Marys. So the Undertaker walks in, and he decides that's the day where I'm going to become a made man. And a made man meant he would buy 20 Jack Daniel's shots. And he would sit down in a booth with you one-on-one, tell you something, and then you take a shot. Tell you something, you take a shot. So I took 10 Jack Daniel's shots in the course of 20 minutes probably. So I was done. So apparently, and I don't remember this, apparently I gave 3 slaps to Big Show on his chest. Now, only an idiot would hit Big Show, 500 pounds, 7'2". I wasn't scared of him, Vince. Not by a long shot. So the next day, I was so sick all day, and I was just hiding. I was just trying to get through the day. So we drive to L.A. after the show. You know, I-15 is that straight shot. Pull into the LAX Marriott, and I walk in, and who do I see at the bar just kicking it? Big Show, Kevin Nash, Scott, and the Hulkster.
Gosh,
so
man, that's crazy.
I got to meet him, right? Not thinking about the heat I had with Big Show. So I walk over, what's up, boys? You know, I do like the bro hug, like I'm one of them, you know. And Big Show says, tomorrow, me and you, ring 3:00.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
You're going to take 3 chops that I took from you in the bar in Las Vegas. I said, okay, I'll be there. So the next morning, God rest his soul, I'm walking through the lobby, and Scott Hall is just a mess, an absolute mess at 9 a.m. Monday. And I was like, this ain't going to go well. This isn't going to last long. And if people remember, they were only there for like that long because Scott Hall he was a mess.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget, Hogan was great to me that day. And I thought, okay, the day I meet Hogan is the day I'm going to die because Big Show is going to kill me with 3 overhand slaps on my chest. So the rule was when you had a dispute, 5 minutes. So I showed up, and it's shirt off in the ring, take 3 steps. So Big Show was playing dominoes. And somebody says, hey, I'll go get Big Show. I said, you're not going to move. He knows what time we're supposed to be here. And I wouldn't whatever it was. And like we're walking, and you talk about time standing still. We're all looking at our watch, and there's like 30 talent out there. And
Yeah.
it's like tick, 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 tick. He never showed. So then you reverse, and now I've got the upper hand because
Right.
now I could sell that Big Show was scared of me.
Right. Back down.
Yeah. Well, I played that card for maybe 2 or 3 weeks until eventually, and he got his revenge on a plane going to Afghanistan.
Oh.
So I learned my lesson never to mess with Big Show again, never to talk trash. I should have just left it alone.
Yes.
Didn't need to rub it in.
Yes.
But see, the 6 degrees Hogan show, it all
you live, you learn, Coach. You live, you learn.
That's very true. That's very true. Last one, Jimmy has always wanted Hogan versus Austin after Rock. Man, they physically couldn't have done it. That would have been I mean, Austin had the neck issue. Hogan's knees. I don't think you guys can understand what it was like to watch Hogan walk.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
It was a hard watch.
Yeah.
It was a hard watch.
Yeah.
Vince, well done today, brother.
Great show, Coach. I'm glad I got to do this show with you, man. It meant a lot. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you. For those, there's a lot of new people out there. Thank you for tuning in. We do this every single Monday and Thursday. We start either 5 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Always check our socials for the start time. Easiest thing to do, subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on the notifications. As soon as we start the show, you'll be notified, and you can come check us out. But sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for tuning in today and allowing us to tell these stories. That's going to do it for us. For Vince Russo, for Producer Man, I am the Coach. We'll see you on Monday. There's on one. It's the Coach and Bro Show right here, part of BTT Studios. Take care.